Fixing a flat on your motorcycle when you're out traveling, especially if you're in the backcountry, can be a daunting idea for many riders. So in this video I'd like to share with you not only how to change a tube, but also share some of the tricks that I have picked up along the way. And if you think this kind of content is going to be useful to you, then stick around, that'll show to you how I like to do it. Let's get started. Here for my motorcycle is a Honda CRF 300L. I need a 21-inch tube for the front and an 18-inch tube for the rear. What I like to do is only to carry a 21-inch. I carry my tube on a Ziploc bag and I try to get most of the air out, so it is quite compact. And I take the opportunity to also pre-powder it with baby powder, as this is going to facilitate during the installation. In addition to the tube, I like to also carry a repair kit, and that's just in case of an emergency. Once again, it doesn't cost that much, it's not heavy, and it doesn't take much space on my luggage. Okay, so let's open the tool roll, and I'm going to show to you what I'm going to need in here. The first thing that I need is a way to lift the motorcycle off the ground. So here I have a trail jack. I'm also going to need a hand pump. Then I'm going to have a ratchet. And I'm going to need some sockets to get the nut and the axle off the motorcycle. And in here I also have my tire spoons, that is to remove and to reinstall the tire. If you have a rim lock, you're also going to need a spanner. In my case, it's a 12mm spanner for the rim lock. Then I also have a bead body, a trail bead body, so this just helps me here to keep the tire in place when I'm remounting it, so the tire doesn't slip off the rim. Then I have a valve core removal tool, that is to get the air completely out of the tube. And I also carry a little bit of tire mounting lube. If you're carrying a lot of luggage, get it off your motorcycle. Find a good spot to park your motorcycle. And it should be a flat spot. That is, since you're going to lift your motorcycle, we would just want to have everything level, because when you're removing the wheel and putting the wheel back on, it's going to be safer if you're in a flat spot. And the last one, for your comfort, if you're on a sunny day, hot sunny day, if possible, try to find a spot where you have some coverage, just to have some shade. Before lifting the wheel of your motorcycle, I'm going to loosen up all of the screws, nuts and bolts, so it's just safer when, instead of trying to do that when the wheel is off the ground. Very important to keep yourself organized, especially if you're doing this in the backcountry. So I'm going to reposition the axle, so I don't want to lose anything, so keep organization here quite good. My motorcycle only has a brake disc on one side. I like to have it pointed up. If you are doing the rear wheel, then I would recommend you to have the rear sprocket pointed down towards the ground. I'm also getting the nut of the valve stem off. And once again, touching the topic of being organized, here on the tool roll I have this area which is magnetic, so I can just put the nut in here, you see, and it doesn't go away. So I recommend anything that you're removing that is metallic, just put it here so you don't lose anything, and especially because you have the magnets. If you plan on reusing the tube, you're going to patch the tube for instance, you want to do this part of removing the valve core very slowly. You don't want to just go all in, otherwise as the air is coming off, the valve core can just go somewhere else with the pressure of the air. So do it slowly and have your hand around so you don't lose the valve core. Since the valve core is not metallic, I'm going to put it on this pocket in here until I need it later. If you have a rim lock, you don't need to remove it all the way. You can just loosen it, but no need to remove the nut here at the end. Now we need to get the bead of the tire off the rim. This part can vary a lot in difficulty. Now I know that for my motorcycle and with this tire is not going to be hard. If I just step with my own body weight, that's going to be enough. You also have seen already some guys that they use the side stand of the motorcycle, of someone else's motorcycle, because in this case I cannot use on mine since I'm alone in here. But if you're riding with someone else and it's quite hard to get the bead off, you can use someone else's motorcycle and just get the side stand and press against the wall of the tire. If you're alone and it's quite hard, you will have to improvise. Just take your time, and it's a bit of force using your own body weight I find to be the best way. Now I'm going to flip and do it on the opposite side. Then I turn back to the other side. Now it's time to start getting the first lip of the tire off. There are a few tips I want to share with you in here. I have the rim lock on this side and the valve stem on the opposite side. I like to start somewhere in between them. So I'm going to take in the middle between the two. Another tip in here, you don't want to take your tire spoon and ram it all the way strong and fast inside of your rim in here. So you have to be careful, especially if you're going to reuse the tube. Now if the tube is already gone and you have a spare one, it doesn't matter so much, but if you're intending on reusing the tube, then you don't want to risk damaging the tube even further. So I'm just going to press, create a little bit of space in here. You can also use your foot. Find just enough, you see, I'm not going all in, just enough to fit the tire spoon once you catch the lip, and then I'm going to start turning. Here I use the brake disc to hold the tire lever in place. Once I have the first two, then I get one tire spoon out, move to the next position. Now see, here's the valve stem, so I don't want to come with the tire spoon right where the valve stem is. I always aim a little bit to the side. Okay, from now on it should be much easier to continue. I'm just change the camera angle so you can see in details what I'm doing. So here's the valve stem, I skip the valve stem, put the tire spoon, see I'm not going with force, it's just find a good way and pull it. You don't need a lot of force in here. Now I'm going to go to the opposite side. So there it is, we have the first lip of the tire off. At this point, I'm going to get the tube out. Let's get the next lip of the rim. So here I'm going to, some people can just try to push the tire off, but I'm going to do it with the tire spoon, because not every tire you're able to do that. So I'm catching the lip of the tire on the opposite side, like this. Once again, I use the disc brake to hold the tire lever in place. See where the rim lock is on the opposite side. Get here out, another bite. Usually at this point, you should be able to just get with your hand, like this. I'm going to fill up the tube a little bit. It doesn't have to be a lot of pressure, just so it holds its shape. Okay, so the way I like to do it now, I like to put my tube inside the tire first. Another tip I have to you in here, if your tire is a directional tire, then there's going to be an arrow somewhere along the sidewall. If that's the case, then you have to take this into consideration before you put the tire onto the rim. Another tip is that if your tire has either a red dot or yellow dot somewhere along the sidewall, here's a red dot on mine, and you're using a rim lock, then I recommend you to line up this dot with the rim lock. if you're not using a rim lock, then I recommend you to line up this dot with the valve stem. So since I have a rim lock, just to show to you how I'm going to do it, here's my rim lock. So that's now lined up the red dot with the rim lock. And then I want to have my tire. I have to see where the hole for the valve stem is. So my hole for the valve stem is in here. So I'm going to mount the tube like this. So that's the position. I'm going to now put the tube here inside, like this. Now that this is done, I'm using my hand. I keep the valve stem out and I put it here where the hole is on my rim, like this. And in order for the tube not to slip out of its position and I don't lose the valve stem, I'm taking the nut and already putting the nut onto the valve stem. You don't need to screw the nut all the way in, it's just a little bit so the valve stem doesn't slip out of the rim. If you have tire mounting lube, that's a good moment for you to go and take a little bit. And I'm going to put this on the opposite side. So this part here, which is already where the valve stem is more or less fitted into place. So it's the remaining part. I'm just going to smear a little bit. And I'm going to mount on both sides like this going around. I'm going to finish where the rim lock is. So just here where the tire is. And I push it. Now here, using my knees, I'm holding the tire in place. So let me get this second one here out. Now let me show to you, if you have a rim lock, what you need to do. So if you have a rim lock, you need to get this lip of the tire over the rim lock. So it also helps if you take the tire lever and just lift the tire like this. And to test that you have done this correctly, you should be able to press the rim lock. So if you see here, I cannot press, so I'm going to lift the tire. And now you see, I can press the rim lock, so then the tire is really sitting around the rim lock, not on top of it. Once again, I'm checking that my valve stem is straight. I have the dot where the rim lock is. So now I'm going to add a little bit of my tire mounting lube on this side of the tire. I'm going to get started on the opposite side of the rim lock. So that's more or less here where I have the valve stem. Be very careful with your tube in order not to get a pinch. So you want to go very slowly in here. Now, that's a good moment for you to take your trail bead body. So there it is. I get the second one, move it a little bit forward. Next one, a little bit forward. Now here's another hint for you. If you're having trouble to fit your tire spoon in here, so you really don't want to risk that you just put too much force and then the tire spoon slips inside and then you damage your tube. So all you have to do, just back a little bit with your previous tire spoon, then it's going to give you a little bit of room, fit the next tire spoon, and then you go forward. Get that previous one out. See, it's hard to fit now, so I go back. The next one. I'm really not using a lot of force in here. Just back and in here. Okay, now I'm going to hold the tire with the other one and in here, so it doesn't slip. And I'm going to start working now on the opposite side. I'm moving now with my knees, really stretching here. And you see that at the same time, while I'm using my knees, I'm pushing the sidewall onto the drop center. So that's what you want to have. You want to have the sidewall sitting right in the middle of the rim. Okay, so that's going to make mounting much easier. Get this one out. I'm going to move to the opposite side again. Always more bites, and you see I always back down the previous tire lever. And when I hook the tire spoon, it's just on the edge of the rim. Always paying attention that I'm not catching the tube. Push it again, another small bite. Okay, moving to the opposite side once again. Okay, what I'm going to do now is going to get the bead body, and I'm going to move the bead body to this position. So there it is. So now it will not slip up more from this side. Now we are getting to the hardest part. That's really now. Backing down. I'm backing out again with the tire spoon. Another small bite. Now we're almost at the end. I'm going to try to push with my hand. So there it is. So when I try to push the rim lock up, it's not going. But that's because the edge of the tire is pressing against the rim lock. So I'm going to fit my tire spoon in here, lift the tire, and then press the rim lock until it's loose like this. Okay, once I get the tire a little bit full, now I'm going to tighten the rim lock. Now I can continue. Okay, that's good enough now. I'm happy with it. And the nut in here, I like to back the nut of the valve stem against my cap. Instead of putting your axle on the floor, so it's gonna pick up a lot of dirt, I just put here on top of the tool roll, so it doesn't get dirty. And the correct way of doing, first you're going to tighten this axle here. Once you have this axle tightened, then we're going to do the pinch bolts. And you do the pinch bolts, a little bit of each at a time. I'm sure there will be other guys that do it differently. They might have some different tips. So if you have a different tip for me, just leave here in the comment. Also share with other motorcyclists. I hope you liked the video, and I see you on the next one. Bye bye.